Hello?
I don't have time to explain. You gotta get out of there right now!
All right, let me grab my...
Jesus Christ!
Hey, how's it going, everyone? John here.
And Anthony.
And today we're going to be talking about some breaking interviews that have happened on Press Start and Well Played. We're going to start with the Well Played one. And this video is all about the Stalker enemies and the situation that is unfolding with the recent interviews that have come out.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Like how we're kind of getting information at this point where, you know, now that the conventions are kind of done and, you know, they're kind of still talking to the press and giving people, you know, little bits of information here and there. It hasn't been much, but it's enough to where we actually want to talk about it because they're starting to acknowledge certain things that we definitely have to talk about and everyone's talking about in the community.
Yeah, and the marketing has been a little stale.
Mm-hmm.
And it almost seems like this is going to be their approach. They're going to slowly let interviews trickle out. Who knows when this interview was actually conducted?
Right.
It could have been like, you know, have a shadow embargo or something.
Yeah.
But we're going to start with the Well Played one. It was on November 19th by Zach Jackson on the website Well Played, which I believe it says AU, so I'm guessing that's Australia. And we're just going to kind of run down the questions and give their answer that they've give and then go over our thoughts on each answer.
Yeah.
So why don't you kick the first one off with what Well Played said?
They asked, recent Resident Evil titles have utilized a Stalker enemy with Requiem. How difficult has it been finding the right balance with the mechanic to make sure players don't get frustrated, seeing as it's something they've experienced in previous games? Have you ever considered having an option to disable the mechanic? So it's very interesting. Before I get into the answer,
Yeah.
I think the first thing that we think of, me and you, is the fact that they are on record saying that because Nemesis got, you know, gimped down in 3 Remake because they thought that people complained that Mr. X was too hard. It was a mechanic that people thought was too much, was too intense, right? And them asking, well, if you could just switch it off or just not have it, it's very interesting as well. But so this is what he said. This is what Masato said. I understand how there are a lot of opinions surrounding the Stalker, but we are giving a survival horror experience. We did learn from the past on how to balance it, or try not to make it a main part. It's like a small part of the game. The most important thing is that because the game is new, we wanted to focus on trying to scare the player in many different ways. Providing that players can be involved in many different kinds of situations, we're just trying to cover a whole lot of scenarios to make sure the players can get scared and experience the horror. So, yeah.
This can be taken a couple different ways. This could be that it really is a small part of the game, that monster is going to be around. We had a podcast a while ago where we kind of predicted this is potentially just the first 20% of the game, the first level.
The Stalker may not be throughout.
It might not be throughout. We
Yeah.
might deal with that in the first part of the game and then move on to the ruins of Raccoon City. We don't know for sure, but it could mean that. It could also mean that what they think is a small part of the game is that these segments are spread throughout and very short-lived. So you just deal with it, and then you're left alone for a while, and you don't have to deal with Mr. X stomping after you constantly. More so like Nemesis was, where he's in scripted areas, and then you deal with him, and then you're done with him for a little bit.
Now, if you compare it to Lady D, where it was just in a certain section of the game, I feel like it could be more reminiscent of that, where it could just be in the Rhodes Chronic Care Center, you know, what we think that is, you know?
This answer could very well lean to a Mr. Or a Nemesis situation or a Lady D situation. And I think our money's on it's probably more likely a Lady D situation.
Yeah.
Where this hospital is the only place this enemy is going to appear. And then once you deal with this enemy, you're moving on to the next area and the next threat, and maybe there won't be stalking enemies in the future.
Which, if you're, you know, thinking about it in this way, where it's like, if the Stalker enemy has been a big part of the marketing, you know, it's one of those things where, like, it could get people to be like, oh, man, this is really cool. But then it's another situation of, like, the Stalker enemy may not be as big as you think. You know, when you're seeing it in all these trailers, you're seeing it in the coverage. So...
And again, the person answering these questions in this interview on Well Played is Masato Kumazawa. He is the guy that he's the one that talked about the demo.
Yep.
He's kind of just the front face of the game this time around, almost more so than Nakanishi.
Yeah, Nakanishi
they have
has
Kumazawa
said,
answering a lot of interviews.
Yeah, like Nakanishi has said like some stuff, but it's mostly, it's like when we had Peter Fabiano.
Fabiano,
he used to be one of the producers, and
he was
left.
so in the game. He was in the game.
And he left
Resident
after
7.
Village. So now we have this other producer. That's again, this is a little bit more of how they go about releasing information and not explaining too much about it without giving a lot away. And that's the biggest thing, is they're trying to be a little shielded here with Resident Evil 9, and whether or not we actually see more of the Stalker enemy before release, other than what we just saw, probably won't. We'll probably just keep seeing the same clips of it around the Chronic Care Center, so we can kind of assume that might be where the Stalker enemy will be. So moving on to the next thing.
Yeah, well played, asked Masato Kumazawa. One of my favorite parts of Resident Evil in this interview, in this interview, is the save room music. How much work goes into designing these rooms and their musical themes? And Kumazawa-san says, yes, like the past, we will have safe room music. That's going to be there. I didn't hear it exactly from the sound team, but what I can say is that we made sure that the song will sound fresh. It'll make the players feel refreshed. Sorry, I didn't hear it from the sound team, but I'd like to hear it from the sound team as well.
What I always liked is how it always is a switch between save room, safe room.
Yeah.
Save room, safe room. It's basically the same thing.
Yeah, I think that's a player connotation.
It is, yeah.
Safe room has always been the official word.
Right.
Safe haven, safe room.
Yep.
Save room kind of became the moniker that players gave it.
Yeah.
Because it's where you save.
It kind of took it's like...
But even in the first game, there was typewriters in rooms that weren't save rooms.
Exactly, yeah.
So it's just kind of a thing. Like,
I just always love that, yeah.
Well, it's very close, right? Like, you could say, if in a sentence, if you're saying safe or save really fast, the other person could interpret it both ways. It's kind of like one of them cool things.
So chat, let us know, what do you call it?
Yeah, do you call it a safe room? Do you call it a save room? I think over the course of our career on YouTube, we've said both for sure.
100%.
But I lean more save room because that's what my parents called it when I was little.
Yeah.
But it is a safe room.
Yeah. No enemies can get in,
I've even called it the item box room when I was explaining to my friends how to play the game. Like, oh, you want to go back to the safe room. Where's that?
Where you drop everything.
What room in this house is safe? The item box room.
Yep.
Because typically, there might be a couple instances, but mostly, if there's an item box, there's no enemies.
Yeah.
There is a couple of instances in the franchise, I think, where there can be an enemy in an item box room, but it's very few and far between.
Yeah. And as far as what he's mentioning about the music here, I have no doubt that they'll have some good soundtrack coming out of this.
For sure.
I think the ones in 7, like even the save room theme in 7 was pretty good. Village had some okay tracks. Nothing too stand out, but I have faith that they'll have a really good save room theme in this, and hopefully just a good soundtrack overall.
Yeah, so moving on to the next interview that we're putting in this video, it's from Press Start.
James Barish?
James Barrick, probably. Barrick or Barich.
Sorry if we butchered your name.
Well,
that's classic LTRE, so...
it wouldn't be us without it.
Yeah.
I would say with my language experience, it's probably James Barrick.
Yeah.
It's from Press Start. This is a couple days prior, so this interview came out on November 17th.
Okay. All in the past week or so.
Yeah, all in the past 7 days or so.
Yeah.
This is 9 days old at this point as of recording this video. But they also got Masato Kumazawa, and we're going to go through the same thing, questions and answers, kind of give our thoughts on it. All of the footage we have seen, Press Start asks, all of the footage we have seen of Requiem so far showcases a new Stalker enemy, and some people call her Big Mama. I have never heard that. I have never heard that, so I want to know where this person or this interviewer is hearing Big Mama.
Called her Big Mama.
The only thing I can think of is that I do think it's Alyssa, so I guess that's what they call Big Mama for, but...
Everyone's in the comment, you guys didn't see...
No,
them call her Big
I have
Mama?
never seen our comment section call her Big Mama.
Any,
I've heard them call her Mama Alyssa,
Yeah.
but not Big Mama. That's strange.
Big
Anyway, but does she have an official name? Do you think the stalker enemy type rather, is integral to the Resident Evil experience yet? Now, Masato Kumazawa answers this question. He answers, first, in terms of the stalker, there is an official name, but we can't disclose that here, because if we do tell you, it will take away from the horror.
Such a classic stock answer.
It's Alyssa.
Yeah.
That's almost just guaranteeing that it's Alyssa.
Well, yeah, I mean, and of course, yeah, they're not going to say
what
it.
if the official name
say
is like is Mommy?
Yeah, that would be spot on. That
because that would be horror, right? Like, it would take away from the horror. Oh, it's a mommy.
It's a mommy.
But M-A-M-I, Memmy.
Memmy.
But saying it's stalking, by saying it's stalking Grace, we just want to say that we can't quite say it's stalking. We can't say why it looks like this or how it acts like that. We are saying it might be stalking her. We just want to say it's not quite stalking her.
Okay, my brain hurts from reading this.
So if you guys are like, guys, it's just fucking words on a screen, just read it. It's the way these interviews are written sometimes is almost reverse English. So when you're reading them, your brain is autofilling like your terrible iPhones and Android phones at home. I know mine is. Both of them are terrible, by the way. Their autocorrects have all-time low, by the way.
Yeah.
Just saying. But your brain kind of autofills it. So sometimes, like, I will say the word before I read it because I know that's what's coming next. And then that word that I'm saying comes after the word that's next.
And it's also, this is transcribed from Japanese, so it's just...
Potentially. But
I mean, wouldn't it be? Because I don't
it
think
has to be for Masato.
English.
Yeah, Masato is transcribed.
So they gotta, or translate, whatever they gotta translate. That's why it just sounds very strange.
Yeah.
Like, I get what he's saying. He's basically saying,
we're not going to say it's stalking her, but we're going to say it could be.
It could be stalking.
But it's not necessarily stalking, because that would be illegal.
And if it was stalking, it would be in more than one section in the game.
Yes.
Throughout the game.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
There's a lot of ways you can interpret it. This is basically a zero-sum answer.
Stalking throughout the section is basically what he's saying. I mean, I don't know. We could take this as a few different things.
Yeah, he also didn't answer the question at all. Like, they said, like, do you think it's an integral part of the Resident Evil experience? And he didn't even acknowledge that.
No.
So I understand why they wouldn't, because of all the drama surrounding, oh, I hate Stalker enemies, oh, I love Stalker enemies, oh, I hate them. You're not going to go either way with that publicly, because if you say it is, you're damning your fans that hate it. If you say it isn't, you're damning your fans that love it, and then you're also telling your fans that hate it, they're asking, why is it even in the game then?
Yeah.
So I think at this point, Stalker enemies are integral. I think in Resident Evil history, we have always had these. They've just looked different, right? You have your hunters in Resident Evil 1. In Resident Evil 1 Remake, you have hunters breaking down the doors and zombies breaking down the doors. And in Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, you obviously have the best Stalker enemy that they've ever made with Nemesis. Resident Evil 2, you have Mr. X stalking you through the levels. You have Birkin stalking you through the levels. You run into these monsters over and over again. What they're saying here with the Stalker enemy type is more so that enemy that goes down, gets back up, and keeps coming after you.
That's not what this is.
That's not what this is.
Now,
this is different. This is more of a Nemesis in RE3 kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not completely against them doing a Stalker enemy, but I do think that, like, or something like it. I just think they need to balance it better than what you did in Resident Evil 8. 7, obviously you had the Bakers, so you had that element which was more contained. If this is more expanded upon, I wouldn't necessarily just want to have, whatever this, monster is, whatever you want to call it, Big Mama, take your pick, if it doesn't really make sense, other than like, well, we just have to have a Stalker enemy in there. I would want it to be a little bit more organic, like it's there for a reason.
For sure.
I'm sure we're going to find out what it is or who it is. Like I said, we have our theories, but yeah, I just think that, like, this is something that some people could even look at and be like, oh man, like another Stalker enemy, like, do we really need it? And my answer to that would be, well, yeah, if it plays well to the story, if it works. If it feels like it's janky, if it feels like the segments are a little like lackluster and you're hiding too much and there's too much going on, that's when it becomes a problem.
Yeah, so a true Stalker enemy from beginning to end, Resident Evil has really never done. Because you just don't get... it's not like Alien Isolation. That's a true Stalker.
No matter what, it's coming back.
Forever, until the end.
Even Nemi in the original Resident Evil 3, it gives you breaks. And you fight, the Gravedigger. You fight, the different bosses that are around.
Having the idea of a Nemesis or a Lady D where you're at her castle, so she's the stalking portion of the game.
In that section, yeah.
The problem with Village's stalking was that you had multiple stalkers in the castle. So you had the daughters, obviously, and then you had the Lady D, of course. The Lady D. If I had to have it, if they have to have it going forward, I prefer that to the Mr. X. Just because I do like to slow down and enjoy it and have a safe area, be able to look at things on the walls, look at my inventory, read files. Not that the game doesn't pause, but it feels a little weird when you're reading a file and Mr. X is in mid-punch.
What do you think about the consistent Mr. X in RE2 Remake, as opposed to the original RE2 where he was just in segments? Like, how do you feel about that, like, retroactively looking back? Because I know we've kind of gone back and forth on this since 2019 playing the game.
For sure. I don't mind it because the way I play, I barely ever see him.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not worried about him. I'm not scared of him. So
we don't necessarily think it's too hard. Like, it makes the game too hard.
He doesn't bother me.
Right.
What I would say is I like when those type of Stalker enemies come back and you're forced to deal with them. You can run from them for a little bit, but then you're forced to deal with them.
Mm-hmm.
Like a Nemesis in RE3 Remake. That I think is cool. The kind of Stalker enemy I don't like is like Decisions. Where that tyrant is just beating your ass.
Every room you go to.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
Because it speeds the pace up of the game, and it doesn't utilize every room to its fullest in a lot of cases because you have to rush. So you don't get the puzzle. You don't get as many puzzles. You don't get as many interesting puzzles, at least.
Even the Axeman and
the Axeman and Flashback is also annoying.
Yeah,
very annoying.
Yeah, because you're trying to get through the whole thing.
Back.
Yeah,
and they also balance that game in a sense that you want to run because you don't have a lot of ammunition
or
to
time.
kill the boss at the end or time.
Yeah.
So I don't like them that much. I would much rather prefer something like a Nemesis or Lady D, where you can deal with them or run from them, and then you have to eventually deal with them anyway. So that's how I would like them to handle Big Mama. I would like them to handle Big Mama by having her kind of stalk you around and being able to escape her. Have it build up. Escaper, but you have to deal with her at some point. And then she's done.
It makes me question, like, because clearly if this is the case, let's just say in theory, that this monster doesn't follow you to Raccoon City, what will be our boss-ish fights around that point in the
Spencer.
game? Yeah, well, yeah.
It's going to have to be Spencer,
it would have to
or
be
whoever
Spencer.
the old man, the Mad Doctor. I call him Mad Doctor.
Right.
Whoever the Mad Doctor is.
Yeah,
it's
pending
have to be
whoever it actually is, right? But we're pretty set on what it could be, and I think...
I would be willing to bet that it's Spencer.
Yeah, I think it would make sense. I think we've said this, from the beginning when we're like in theory of like, well, Resident Evil could easily be like, hey, that person did not die. Because again, this is Capcom at the end of the day. Resident Evil is a wacky series where sometimes you think, things are completely done, chapters are closed, and things come back. So I think it's very possible at this point.
This is not what this video is about.
No.
But all I'm going to say is he did visit Miranda. If you think somebody as intelligent as Spencer didn't keep a mold sample as an oh shit button, that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
That's a way you tie it all back.
Right, exactly.
He's on his deathbed, like we were joking, he pops the thing open and just fucking drinks some mold.
Yeah.
There is ways that he could have backed his subconscious up.
Yeah.
That Spencer could have died that night and he could be in an Ethan situation.
Yeah.
where he's a molded.
If it happened to Ethan, why can't it happen to Spencer?
It could happen to anybody.
Somebody who, like you said, kind of thinks ahead of the game.
And
so
he is very smart, and he knew Wesker was going to turn on him. He has files where he talks about it. We're not going to get into that. I'm just saying.
Yeah, we're letting you know.
I'm just saying, if they're going to tie the mold back to this game somehow,
that's how you do it.
That's the way that, I think that's the only way you can really do it.
Yeah.
If you have him just live through it, because he's going to live, it's going to be a little interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm going to feel about him bleeding out his heart and just be like, oh, I repaired myself.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know about that.
I know. It's a little bit of suspending disbelief.
The mold is a hack. It's like Venom.
Yeah.
You can have incredible damage to your body in Venom the symbiote, which is what the mold reminds me of.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think, if you're going to circle it back to how they could make any of this stuff work as far as, like, a Stalker enemy that, like, somewhat connects to, did this person place them there? Did they set that up? There's a lot of, like, questions there. Moving on to the next one thing, though, the question. This is kind of like him looking back on something like the Village specifically.
Yeah, for sure.
He says, looking back on the last mainline game, Village, if you had to liken the horror to one of the sections from that game, the castle, the house, the dam? I guess the Moreau, I guess is what he meant?
Yeah.
And factory, would you say Requiem, what would you say Requiem most resembles? And this is another classic answer. So we can't say we made this game to try and fit in lots of scary situations. We can't really compare it with Village's particular scene.
I think that's supposed to read like, we made this game to try and fit in a lot of scary situations.
Yeah. Again, this is probably Japanese translated, so this is just how it reads in the article, word for word. But if we put Resident Evil 7 as the scariest game, we'd say it's closer to Resident Evil 2.
Yeah.
So if we put Resident Evil 7 as the scariest game, we'd say it's closer to Resident Evil 2. So it's not the scariest game because they're trying to say, we tried to make it less scary because people were saying 7 was too scary. So they're saying we're not making, and ideally, this is what he's saying. We're not making it as scary as RE7. We're going to put it kind of more in the middle, right between Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 7, is what I'm getting from this.
The other thing you have to think about, too, is that he's Japanese. And what do Japanese people love in horror? They love Western horror. It's weird. It's alien to them, right? So Resident Evil 7, I could completely believe in Japan is the scariest Resident Evil. What are Americans scared of? Well, we think the Eastern horror is pretty cool. But if you ask a lot of people I know, being stuck in a stranger in a strange land.
It's the hillbilly backwater.
It's the hillbilly backwater.
It's the stuff that could happen.
The stuff that could happen.
Because obviously, RE7, when it gets all crazy, that stuff is a little out there.
But the element.
Texas Chainsaw, if you look at that movie, that's something that could happen. There could be people that fucked up, so I think that's kind of, like you said, that's why they think it's the scariest. For sure. Yeah.
And honestly, to the average person, I'm not going to argue that it's not. Horrific situations has always been Resident Evil's bread and butter. Resident Evil 7 is pure horror. It is a horror movie as a game, essentially. So I'm okay with them going back to Resident Evil 2 because that kind of brings the action and horror more in line, which is what Resident Evil has really always been.
RE2 is more of like that slower burn.
A lot of people don't want to admit that, but it's been action horror way before RE4. Code Veronica, I mean, she's running from a fucking helicopter.
Yeah.
Resident Evil 2 still has action parts, action segments.
Code
RE3 has
got
plenty.
The slow-mo gun drop.
Yup. Code Veronica is when they really leaned into it. I would say Code Veronica is the closest to leaning action than horror.
Absolutely.
And then RE4 is where it leans action instead of horror. So, this is kind of another thing where it's just like, it's good to know that their intentions is to be more of a Resident Evil 2 game. That tells me it's going to lean more action than horror, but it's not going to necessarily be so far action it's in an RE5 situation.
Or Village, or 4.
Or Village.
Yeah, because 4 Remake and Village have that action, kind of momentum, especially because you have your Duke and your Merchant. You have just access to upgrades and this and that. Like, this is gonna be like your RE2. You're finding the attachment to the gun. And RE3, you're finding these attachments. You have to look for these little things. You can't just go to a store and just buy shit.
RE2, RE3 remake is where I want Resident Evil to kind of sit. I'm okay with them pushing the needle, the pendulum. We talked about the people hated. Some people hated in the comments. I think the pendulum of, like, it needs to swing far enough to be actiony without being more action than horror, and far enough into the horror where it's not completely horrific and leaves action behind. We got to have that kind of balance.
Yeah. You want to read the next one?
Yeah, so next question, Press Start asks, at the end of Village, people have concerns that the series is slipping back into being too action-heavy. Do you feel pressure to ensure the series doesn't head into the same territory as Resident Evil 6? Masato says, looking back, I understand how Resident Evil 4 and Village became more action-heavy. Yes, that we have to admit. Looking back at the feedback, we understand how fans prefer more horror. Requiem was in development way before Village. We told you. We said that. We just wanted to make sure in this game we wanted to focus on the horror and horror be the main part. I am not sure if all development teams are doing this. Again, confirming that there's probably other Resident Evils being created. But I personally try to read as much or all the comments on social media. So please make sure you give your opinions. My mental health is very strong. I am fine to read the comments. I mean, he ain't wrong.
Mental health is very strong.
You need mental fortitude to be able to take comments as a game designer, because people are, no matter what you make, people are going to hate it.
Oh, I'm sorry. As a content creator as well. Because the shit that we see and the stuff that we field is also very tough sometimes. But I will say this. Reading every comment on social media, Masato, I'm sorry. Because if I had to do that every day for the Resident Evil fan base, I'd...
Probably why Fabiano quit.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying people that are hardcores that watch this channel. I mean some of the backwood hillbillies that we see on social media that are commenting, saying crazy shit about Resident Evil. People that, you know, they just think they know best. Like, we thankfully have a really good community here, but there's some people, it's just a bummer. So that's why I think, like, you know...
Well, you have people...
He has to be strong because, again, people are going to say everything, even completely wrong about Resident Evil.
Some people will just complain about the fact that she's a girl. Like, we're still in the 60s.
Right.
And...
Like, we haven't had female main characters.
The game started with a female character.
Yeah.
Like, you had Chris and Jill.
Yeah. It's just... That's why I think it's, like, it's a slippery slope. I respect him for... having the mental health for it, and that's beautiful. You know, I just think that, like, it runs you down if you read all the stuff on Facebook or Twitter.
And I'm glad he acknowledged it.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll read everything.
I mean, look, somebody has to be listening to it, and it's interesting that with this question, they mention, like, Resident Evil 6, because they haven't really been asked about Resident Evil 6, or, like, Resident Evil 6 put you here kind of question. But they recognize that. They recognize that Resident Evil 6 was when they were trying to...
The big dogs will talk about it, but they're not going to ask them.
No,
that's why IGN's not going to ask them.
No, I do like that, though. And again, it goes to what we were just saying before you read this question, is...
Although I think IGN did ask them something about RE6 and RE5.
They might have, yeah.
When RE4 Remake was coming out. Like, how are you going to handle balancing it?
But it does go back to what we were just saying before about, like, what you said about the action and the pendulum swing. It's like, I think that's important to bring up. Like, they don't want to make it very much like that because they say that looking back, they saw that feedback, right? So it's something that they actually saw from Village specifically, even though Village sold like mad and it sold, 13, 14 million, whatever it is up to at this point. Don't quote me on that, but it's pretty high. And it's very tough that, you have all these pockets of fan base and you're trying to please everybody. And again, a franchise that's going
12.2 million as of June 2025.
12.2 million.
So it's at 12.8 as of late October.
Okay, so 12.8 million for Village. So yeah, so that's just something where you have a lot of people to please. 30 years of fans. So they went on to ask him, in terms of action, Resident Evil 7 and Village both feature action-heavy sequences towards the end. I know you can't speak about Requiem too much, but do you think it's too much to have a game that's scary from beginning to end. And he says, Masato says, yes, you're correct, that towards the end, Village and 7 became very action-heavy, very action. So with Requiem, we decided to make sure that it was scary until the end. But to put more details and be more specific, it's not about scaring people the entire way, but using elements of non-horror to improve the horror. For example, you have horror, but then you put in a bit of action in there. Say action one more time. By putting the action and making sure the player is thinking that the horror, the next horror part will scare more effectively than non-stop scares. So we have thought about what order of scenarios will be important and what will be the best order of events that will keep players scared for the whole duration.
And this goes back to what we said about the pendulum. It just needs to have a good balance because both are effective when you have the other to kind of play off of. You get a break from action, you're in the spooky mood. When you break from the horror, you get into the compelling boulder punching mood, right?
Yeah.
Like you want that. Resident Evil has always been Resident Evil because it has both. That's why nobody's come close to it. That's why nobody can touch it as a franchise in the horror gaming space. It's just, that's just what it is.
Sorry, he meowed right into the mic.
Oh, that's fine.
You just hear, meow. Come on, Jazzy.
That's just what you always have, though. You always have the balance of both.
And there's pockets of fan bases that you have to kind of like, you know what I mean? You kind of have to balance that because it's 30 years worth of games and different vibes and different styles, you know what I mean? So
I think it's pretty safe to say Resident Evil 4 saw the biggest influx of new fans.
Yeah.
The original. I don't think anybody here would argue that. RE4 is what made people, it's what put Resident Evil on the casual map.
Yeah.
Even though RE1, 2, and 3 sold very well.
Yeah.
It was what, and Code Veronica sold poorly because of the exclusivity.
It was a gateway that brought a lot more people
For sure.
in, you know.
So you want to adhere to both. And I think Resident Evil 4 has a perfect formula. It just is, you know, the original RE4 is a little bit less what I want in tone. It's a little bit less than what I want in action horror balance. RE4 Remake found the perfect blend, and if they use that as the building block going forward, we're good. We're in good hands. The only thing I would say is cut the merchant. I don't like the merchant system. I think it takes away from the seriousness of the game. It's just too silly. Doesn't mean I don't like the merchant. I don't love the merchant. I don't love that for RE4. I would have been upset if they cut it for RE4 Remake.
Yeah, you kind of can't have RE4 without the merchant.
You can't have, but the merchant character, it was like, in Village, I really didn't like it because it just didn't make sense. And he was an unused character.
It was just a copy-paste of...
That's all it was.
The merchant, Duke, and
you know. And I like RE5 and 6's system even less. That you have a merchant between chapters. Fuck that. No. Just have us progress our stuff. Like, I get it. They wanted to put RPG elements in.
Yeah, like 5 had...
I don't think they need that.
6 didn't even have a merchant shop. 6 was like, oh, you just get skill points, and that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
No
You
weapon
just get skill
stats,
points.
no reload speed,
That's all you get.
which was horrible. So I think... I mean, if they did RE5 Remake, you wouldn't want to see a merchant in there? You'd just want to see...
I would rather them put a merchant in than to have that in-between chapter shop.
Okay.
Because at least with the BSAA...
It flows better, you know?
You know what I would do with RE5? I'm not even kidding. You know what I would do? Have a drop. Like a ammo crate drop that you could go to, and it's like they're taking stuff out of it in between chapters.
Like a resupply.
Like a resupply, but the actual game system is you're spending your money and you're earning your stuff.
Now again, I think any system that we just mentioned works when you're taking the full action route, right?
For sure. Well, even so, it's in the original, so don't cut it.
Yeah, it is, exactly.
But if I could go back in time, I would tell them not to put those systems in.
And if they ever made it to 6, I mean, if they ever did for Remake, they should just add... They should just take a lot of stuff out of that and rework that and maybe rework a better system than the skill points. That didn't really do much.
I really honestly think 6 is going to be Final Fantasy VII Remake. I think they're going to release it in parts. I don't think it's going to be one release.
It could.
I think RE6 is, you're going to have, and I don't even think it's going to be...
But we see how that's affecting Final Fantasy.
For sure.
It's taking way too
Capcom
long.
can do that in a more reasonable pace, though, is what I mean.
They should. If they decided to do that,
I think they could do RE6 Remake, and they could release each character's campaign like year over year, Like do like 2028 is
Yeah,
Leon.
I think they
2020
should focus on a lot more other remakes before that. You know?
Oh, for sure, for sure. There's 4 more games
Or
that need
just
to be
ignore
remade.
it and just never go back to it. Because
They
I'm
could
not,
also
I'm not
do that.
that desperate for another RE6. to be honest.
RE6 looks good enough to where you don't really need to touch it. But
Story-wise,
there's a lot going on, and it's very confusing. And for like a lot of people, it's very confusing. And it does have some pretty important events.
it does.
So
Yeah.
that get washed away because everybody always is just complaining about it.
And then it jumps right to 7, which is like, again, kind of like a soft reboot, like we mentioned.
Exactly.
So, yeah, why don't you read the last one up here?
Yeah, so this is a question. Press Start says, this is a specific question I've personally wanted to ask. So I'm sorry in advance. In the recent Resident Evil games, there haven't been spiders like they appeared in the original Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3. I've heard rumors that there is worry that people who are arachnophobic would not play the game, so they have not been in modern games for that reason. Can you confirm if this is true or not? Masato Kumazawa says, laughs. No, I don't think so. I think it's just a coincidence. The series has been going on for a long time, and what happens is that with every new game, we have to present like a new element of scary, or we have to put in a new variation of scares. So I believe what happened is that with time, it has dissipated. I think that's what it is, by the way. Or I think that's what it is. By the way, Resident Evil 7, there is spiders.
No. He's such a dick for saying that. No, there's not.
There's little ones.
Spiders on the cage. This guy's talking about your fucking like
Yeah, the big
ass
spiders, the web spinners. So I have a theory.
I can't do this.
I have a theory that the actual reason why they cut the insects
Yeah.
is because the insects themselves, the big ones,
Yeah.
scientifically wouldn't be able to move.
Right.
And Resident Evil is more of a science-based horror, even though there are stuff like the mold and there's stuff like tyrants and the human embryo hybrids and stuff like that. You have to just suspend your disbelief a little bit. We have scientifically proven a spider that's too big it will literally collapse under its own weight. That's why ants aren't huge. That's why when you get ants that are really big, they actually move pretty slow. It's because of that gravity and things like that. Now, could you explain it away with the T-virus? Absolutely. Are they still there in the originals? Absolutely. Could you have done it? They should have. I don't see why they wouldn't have. Like, I don't see why.
Anytime, I know you've talked about RE2, that's one thing you've mentioned.
The moth
where's
is
the
gone.
Spiders?
The
Where's
spiders
the
are
moth?
gone.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think
Liquor bees are gone.
The Scorpion and the Centurion and Zero remake, they're going to be gone. I almost guarantee they won't show up.
I'm sorry, I just cracked up because I just like how he's like, oh yeah, by the way, Resident Evil 7, there's a spider. It's like, no, there's not. But
there are little spiders.
I know, on the cage, but that's not what this guy was asking.
Yeah,
like, this guy wasn't like, hey man, I haven't seen spiders at all. Like, he's talking about the spiders that we know.
He says like they appeared in the original.
Yeah, they didn't appear that small in the original. So I don't know. That's.
But I guess that was his argument to the whole arachnophobic thing.
I
get still
it.
put them in there.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I get it. But you know, we've talked about the cut enemies before. We've talked about, you know,
For sure.
the stuff that we haven't seen in the RE Engine games. And to be fair, this is one of the first questions I think I've ever seen since the RE Engine where someone actually directly asked them about spiders. They never really asked like, hey, yo, what the fuck happened there? Like, why, you know? So I do actually really like these questions that they asked him.
This was a good interview.
And yeah, Masato, he's a good guy. I'm just joshing. You know, this is just funny. I just laugh at some of the responses sometimes, but the fact that he's actually here to like respond to some of these questions is good because we need some clarification on some of this stuff. So even though they're being a little cryptic, they're trying to hold some of this stuff close to the chest. You know, it's just common with a lot of this stuff. So especially when we're this close to release. But
yeah, that's it. That's all for the Stalker enemy. Some really good questions, some really good answers. I think the last thing I'd like to touch on before we get out of this video would just be the little casual drop that they publicly acknowledged. Requiem has been in development way before Village is interesting. So that's interesting because the director is the one who directed 7. And the fact that it's just been in development for so long leads me to believe that they really did go through development hell. They had to have.
Well, I feel like development hell would be years and years and years.
Well, I mean, when do you think Village was in development? It had to have been in development around the same time that 2 was.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been. I mean, there's also different teams for this kind of thing.
RE3 was a different team, so we can annex that out.
Yeah.
The We Do It team was announced what? When did they announce the game was being remade? 2015? Something like that?
Look it up.
Yeah, look that up. I think it was 2015 the We Do It trailer came out. But I just find that to be pretty interesting.
That is interesting, and we know that
they just casually said it. Oh, by the way, it's
August
been in
12th,
development.
2015.
Yeah, so it's been in development way before Village.
So yeah, that's
way before Village. And Village has a lot of unique assets. It's not like they're using the alligator from 7, the alligator in RE2's Orphanage.
Yeah.
They're using all new textures and assets, and maybe some of the textures were reutilized for RE4 remake, like some of the castle textures, but it's just interesting.
Yeah.
How long has this game actually been in development? And will we ever know? How long has this game been in development? And will we ever know the truth? I'm guessing 2016.
It could be. I mean,
10 years. I think this game has been in development since 2016, 2017.
And that means that also includes time that they scrapped ideas, times that they went back to the drawing board, maybe, like I said, but that also includes the open world Resident Evil. We can't ignore that.
Yeah.
That was originally going to be Resident Evil 9. How long was that?
And how long ago was that footage taken?
Right.
When did that look like?
Is this the third form? Did we get a single player RE9? But then was that scrapped? Then did we try to get this RE9 open world version? And then is this like the third? You know what I mean? Like you don't know the stuff until they say this, probably retroactively, like after this is out. Like, hey, this is the history of RE9, like what we went through. They won't say it until it's out, obviously. But yeah, that is an interesting point to bring up, because they kind of just casually drop that. Like, yeah, it's been in development longer than Village. It's like, wait, what? So does that mean that this has more potential to be even better than 7 and 8 as far as the story, as far as something that feels, will
this be more in line with what we wanted?
Exactly.
As opposed to 7 and 8.
Exactly. The only thing that's giving us, like, oh man, what are they doing, is really the marketing. And I think that's, people have a right to be concerned about that, because again, the lack of stuff they showed, leading up to this point. And then if there isn't a demo, that makes people a little bit more nervous. But I mean, again, we still feel positive about it, even given our last video talking about it. We still feel positive about it. I also don't want people to think like just because we're, not getting a demo means that we're just going to completely have a change of mind or anything like that. Like, people are like, oh, you guys got to go out and, touch grass or whatever, get some fresh air. And it's like, we have lives. We're fine. We're not losing sleep over the fact that we're not getting a demo. It's not the end of the fucking world. We get that. We're just saying that it's typically in tradition for them to give us a demo at this point or closer to release. That's all we're saying. I'm not saying that we're entitled to one. I just saying, hey, look, the past history, this is what they've done. I think we deserve a demo given the fact that everybody else, got a chance to play it. But it doesn't mean that like, oh man, like I'm going to change my way, or we're going to change our ways of Capcom, because no, it is what it is. Like, I want a demo to at least play it. But if we don't get it, it's like the game's coming out in February. So it's like, we're going to play it no matter what. We're going to able to, experience it no matter what. In the meantime, a lot of these interviews and stuff like that are just kind of being conducted here and there. And that's kind of where this information comes from.
Yeah.
Until, we see what happens at the Game Awards, and then we see what happens at the RE Showcase. So we'll have to wait and see.
For sure. And there's a lot of proof that the game's been being updated as well. Like certain trailer shots that are reshown have been touched up. Facial expressions have been changed. It leads me to believe that one of the reasons why the collector's edition might be so barren, and why there might not be one, is because they didn't have time to really put together all the assets that they had for the other games, because it was scrapped and redone so many times.
Yeah. I mean,
it's a very interesting time.
Yeah. And again, like, we don't know the timeline of things, but I'm curious, like, once this comes out, if they have like, a making of or something like that, which they don't do for all their games. I wish they did. It would be cool to see the process of like where they were when they wanted to pivot from this open world stuff. There's a lot of stuff that would be interesting to find out. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, that's all we got for this video. So let us know what you think of this whole Stalker enemies and everything that we got out of this interview here. And what are your thoughts?
These two interviews. There was one for Press Start. We'll obviously link the interviews in the description below.
Yeah.
You go check them out yourself. And
let us know.
All I have to say.
Yeah, that's about it.
Next.
yeah, let us know, and yeah, hit the like button, subscribe, and we'll catch all of you in the next one.
Peace.
Peace out.